All right, let's go on the record. This is the state of Texas versus Roy Oliver. If I could please have order in the court. My goodness. Mr. Snipes, you had some matters you wish to put on the record?
Very briefly, Judge. Judge, yesterday, on cross-examination of our witness, Greg Petty, Mr. Gill suggested in front of the jury that I had engaged in prosecutorial misconduct and had threatened Sergeant Maurer. Now, Maurer may well have told Mr. Gill that I did. Mark Howard from Dallas Sheriff's Office was a captain over there, called up Buddy Evans, who was the investigator on this case at that time, and told him that he'd had a conversation with Maurer at a T-close kind of a continuing legal education type of thing down in Corpus Christi, and that Maurer had told Howard down at this thing that the defendant had told him that he learned how to kill in Iraq, that he found out he was very good at it, and that he wanted to do it again. Obviously, me and Buddy went out to ask Maurer about that, and I felt like there's no way that Howard could have known that unless Maurer told him that. So I asked him about that, and he denied having said that, said that he just thought that Oliver had PTSD and he didn't like him, but he didn't remember saying the other thing. And I said, well, if you're called as a witness in this case, I think it's my ethical obligation to let you know that you will be subject to the penalty of perjury. So I don't intend to pursue this any further unless it's brought up again. Judge Johnson asked me to put this on the record with you, and that is precisely what happened.
Thank you, Mr. Snipes. The record should reflect, just as a matter of housekeeping, the jurors have been sequestered since arguments that were on Monday, right around lunchtime. They've been sequestered in the presence of the sheriffs, either at the hotel or in the jury room. And I've had all of their electronic devices locked up in my chambers ever since. My report back from the sheriffs is that they've had no trouble, no issues whatsoever from any of the jurors at the hotel, newspapers getting through, anything untowards happening during sequestration. I think the record should reflect that. Now, with all that in mind, Mr. Gill, you all intend on putting forth evidence today?
We do, Your Honor.
And will you be making an opening statement?
I believe so.
Okay. Let's call the jury. I'll do it. Hey, Sheriff.
I'll trade.
Thank you, Sheriff. You all may be seated. Good morning, members of the jury. You will recall yesterday that the state rested its case in the punishment phase of this trial. Mr. Gill is the defense director.
We are, Your Honor.
Will you all be making an opening statement?
Briefly, Your Honor.
Very good. The court recognizes the Honorable Bob Gill on behalf of the defense. This is your jury, sir. You may proceed with that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So far in this trial, you've heard a lot of testimony, but you've only heard about a split second of Roy Oliver's life. And today, we're going to bring to you the rest of his life. We're going to show you the real Roy Oliver, the Roy Oliver that everybody knows, the Roy Oliver that everybody loves. We're going to show you the family man, the father, the husband, the dedicated soldier, the dedicated police officer, the dedicated human being that is Roy Oliver. Thank you.
Call your first witness, please.
We'll call Liz Greer.
Ms. Greer, hi. If you would please come to the front of the courtroom. Before you have a seat on the witness stand, please watch your step, first of all. Second, I need you to raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth.
Yes, sir.
Please have a seat. You responded to questions from Mr. Gill, perhaps also Mr. Snipes, or Ms. Martin, and Mr. Lewis. You may proceed with it.
Good morning. Would you tell us your name, please?
Elizabeth Greer,
Okay, would you spell the last name?
Greer.
And Elizabeth, how old are you?
I'm 19 years old.
And what do you do?
I'm a soccer player at Southwestern Assembly of God University,
Where is that university located?
Waxahachie, Texas.
What year are you?
I'm a sophomore.
Is today a special day in the academic year?
Yes, sir. It's our first day of class.
Okay. So you took some of your first classes off to be here this morning?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, we hope you can make up the work at some later point. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Balk Springs, Texas.
Did you live there pretty much your whole life before you moved down to Waxahachie?
Yes, sir.
And while you lived there, did you get involved in the community?
Yes, sir. I got involved with my mom, and she was involved in the community. She was on council and just involved with like all over the community and in Mesquite also.
So your mom was on, which council was she on?
The Balk Springs City Council.
How long did she serve, or is she still serving?
She's not still serving, but I'm not sure how long she served.
Okay. But she served long enough for you to get involved in the community along with her?
Yes, sir.
Where did you go to school?
I went to Hodges Elementary, AC New Middle School, and West Mesquite High School.
Is West Mesquite the high school for the majority of Balch Springs?
Yes, sir.
Is there a school called Balch Springs High School?
No, sir.
Okay. So the kids from Balch Springs go to West Mesquite schools?
They'll go to West Mesquite or I believe Mesquite High.
During your course of involvement in your community, did you come to know a person that you know as Roy Oliver?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Oliver, the second person over here to my right?
Yes, sir.
About how long have you known Roy?
I'm going to say 5 to 6 years.
And how did you get to know Roy?
Just being active in the community. He was always active with the stuff that my mom would do, and we just got to know him through that.
Is that stuff he'd have to do as a Balch Springs police officer, or was it extra type of community involvement?
Some of it was while he was on duty, but most of it was while he was off duty, and he would just go out and be involved in the community in his spare time.
So what kind of community involvement are we talking about?
He would go to like the city events that they would hold, like the back to school bashes, the summer stuff, the like anything that just the community held, like Balk Springs held, they would go. And like him and a couple of other officers would go. He went to my high school, talked to the football players like on his free time and just spoke to them. Yeah, he was just active, just all over the community.
And would he be at a number of events that you also were at?
Yes, sir.
And is that basically how you got to know him?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that you were a soccer player.
Yes, sir.
Were you a soccer player in high school?
Yes.
Okay, so you were a high school athlete?
Yes.
Did the athletics programs get together and have social events or other events outside the actual practices and games?
Yes. It actually started with just the football players, and we were feeding the football players. Well, the PTA started it, and then a bunch of athletes came together. Soccer players, basketball players, cheerleaders, we all came together to help the PTA just to support our football players during season, just showing that the school has their back.
How long has that gone on?
That was started my senior year, and for all I know, it's still going on now.
Did you ever see Roy Oliver at any of those events?
Yes, sir.
How often were they held?
They were held once a week.
Did you see him there? Was he there frequently, or?
We would do guest speakers every week, and he came and he was a guest speaker one of the weeks.
What did he speak about?
Respect and just respecting everyone around you, respecting the teammates, because he was talking to majority football players. So it was before, I believe, one of our rival games. So he was just saying respect your team, respect your coaches, respect the refs, respect just everyone around you, be a leader on the field, be a leader off the field. Just show that you are humble and you can just be the best person you can be on and off the field.
Why is it you remember that so well?
Because that was my senior year, so I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and going to college, everyone tells you need to figure out what you want to major in because that's what they ask you. One of the first questions they ask you is, what do you want to be your major? Because that's the classes you're taking. So seeing him up there in his uniform, I had thought about military for a long time because my family passed with it. My dad was in the military, so that was always in my head. And so him being in the military, that was a thought. And then he came up in his uniform and was just like, he was just talking about how he respects everyone above him, everyone below him, no matter like if he's in charge or not. And so I was just like, being an officer would be amazing, and just impacting the community the way that he impacted me and a bunch of my friends would just be great.
Did you make a career choice after hearing him speak?
Yes, sir.
What is your career choice?
My freshman year of college last year, I did my major in criminal justice because of him.
And where do you hope that leads you in life?
I want to be a police officer for the city of Rock Springs.
You mentioned to me that you want to come back to your home area.
Yes, sir.
Did Roy have an effect on just you during that talk, or did he have an effect on other folks?
He had an effect on, I'm going to say, a majority of the people in the room, because a bunch of my friends afterwards came up and told me, like, we know you know him personally, like, he was a great speaker. And after that talk with the players, we had, I think, the most respect out of everyone who was in the room. We got told that we are the most respected kids on campus, and we respect our elders, we respect the teachers, the principals, and everything better than the people who weren't in that room. So,
did that element of respect make its way out onto the football field during that season?
Yes, sir. The beginning of that season was rough for us. And so our players had a past with being very violent on the field, not having good sportsmanship. And after that, our players were the most respected team in the district. We respected everyone on the field, off the field, just all around.
And what do you attribute that to?
Can you repeat or rephrase that?
Why that change in the team?
Because I want to say because they were seeing someone in authority power who took his off time to come talk to us and basically say, like, this is an impact you can have on everyone else. So why not do it? Like, why not make this a better place than what it can be based on how you can treat others?
After the football team and the other athletes heard Roy talk, did you hear people talking about him and about what they learned that day?
Yes, sir.
In what way?
They were talking in a very positive manner. Like, a bunch of my friends, like I said, came up and talked to me about it, and just saying how he looked like a role model and like how they looked up to him now because of the things he went through in his past and what he spoke to us about. And like, he did share a bunch of his past with us, but not like in detail or anything. But he just showed like the struggles he kind of went through and everything that he went to get to where he was. So.
Were there people besides you that that made changes in their life and made career or life decisions because of that talk?
Yes, sir. One of my friends actually went into the military because of him.
Was there more than one person?
There were a couple guys that I know went into the field of criminal justice after that talk. They went and changed their degree.
So is that, from what you know about Roy and what you've observed of him over the 5 or 6 years that you've known him, was that an isolated event, or was that just kind of the way Roy is?
It's just how he is. I've never seen him not want to be how he was whenever he was with the kids. That was just how he always was around everyone.
And when you're saying kids, what age group are you talking about?
They were, in that room, there were ranges from elementary to high school kids, high school seniors.
So all ages.
Yes, sir.
Is that just kind of generally how he dealt with kids of all ages?
Yes, sir.
Do you ever see him have any problems with kids?
No, sir.
Did he encourage the kids that were there to make something of themselves and to respect other people?
Yes, sir. He would always repeat, like, respect. That was his main thing for that talk. He wanted everyone to respect everyone around them because respect goes a long way in life. So if you respect someone, they're going to respect you. So he just wanted them to know that.
Do you have guest speakers come in every week?
Yes, sir. We had preachers, officers, just people in the community, just come out and talk to everyone.
And of all those folks, Roy made the biggest impression.
Yes, sir.
And did he make a lasting impression on the folks over there?
I believe so.
You know, this jury that's seated over here to your right has to make some decisions today. What would you like to see this jury do?
Honestly, just keep a positive outlook on it, because no one went out that night to do anything bad. It was just a normal night, and he didn't go out that night to just kill anyone. He was doing his job. So
Were you actually invited to that party?
I was actually, yes.
And I guess you didn't go?
Yeah, I chose not to go because there was a history in Mesquite, Balk Springs area of kids getting killed at parties, not by officers, but by other kids. So I just made the choice of not going. I didn't want to take the chance of being someone who got killed or put in a bad situation of not being able to graduate the next month.
You passed the witness.
Cross-examination.
Good luck in your soccer career.
Thank you.
Good luck in law enforcement.
Thank you.
May this witness be finally excused.
From the defense you can, Judge. Good pass your lines.
Good luck to you. Please watch your step on the way down. Mr. Gill, please call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'll call Billy Gorwood.
Good morning. Hi. If you could please come to the front of the courtroom.
Yes, sir.
And before you have a seat, watch your step. Please face me and raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth.
Yes, sir.
Please have a seat. Be responding to questions from Mr. Gill. That's also Ms. Martin, who is right in the middle, right in front of you. Sir, you may proceed when ready.
Would you tell the jury your name, please?
Billy Gorwood,
And would you spell it for us, please?
Billie-Gorwood.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ms. Gorwood, where do you live?
12518 Quail, Balk Springs,
How long have you lived in Balk Springs?
since 1989.
Have you seen the city grow since 1989?
Oh, it's changed a lot.
And you still live in Balk Springs?
Yes, sir.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm retired from Dallas County, and my husband and I have some rent property in Balk Springs.
And through your rental property ownership, did you come to know a guy by the name of Roy Oliver?
Yes, I know him well.
And is Roy Oliver the person right here to my right?
Yes, sir.
How do you know Roy?
Well, I've known him for a lot of years. Even before this tragedy happened, he lived at my apartment complex, and he helped me with security. He watched out for all of us. He was a tremendous help, because we're a complex kind of for the working poor, and some of our tenants have some mood disorders and mood problems and things like that. I had an older lady who was one of my tenants, and her adult son would come and stay a couple of weeks, and then he'd go away and he'd be back for a few weeks. And Roy pulled me aside and said, "This gentleman takes medicine for anger issues. Don't ever get in an argument with him or find yourself alone when he's angry. Don't have him in the office when you're alone." And that was Jonathan. Jonathan was a lovely man as long as he was on his meds. He was a big man. He was about 6'6" and 300 pounds. And Roy made it his business to befriend Jonathan. And Jonathan had 2 school-age boys that he played football with. Those 2 boys in football were the love of Jonathan's life. And Roy could talk to Jonathan about his boys. His boys liked hung out with Roy and liked to say hello to Roy. And Roy made it his business to befriend the two boys and Jonathan. And he could frequently talk Jonathan down. You know, if Jonathan was angry, Roy would say, "Oh, how are your boys doing in football?" And the conversation was off to football and everything was better. One time Jonathan was having an especially bad spell when I was in the office alone, and he was pacing the sidewalk in front of me and talking to himself, and he was working himself into more and more and more angry. You know, these people think I'm stupid. I'll show them who's stupid. They can't treat me like that. This sort of thing. And Roy came out to go to work, and I knew everything was fine then. I quit worrying. I was feeling a little uncomfortable. Roy came out to go to work, and I knew things would be fine. And Roy said hello to him, and then Roy got in his car, and he sat there, and he sat, and he sat, and he sat. And between Roy being there and saying good morning to him, and he gradually worked himself down and went about his business. Roy always looked out for other people. And when this tragedy happened, I couldn't believe it, that it would happen to Roy. And it was just such a horrible tragedy. You don't know what to do to help people. When I don't know what to do, I cook. I cooked 2 big dinners, 2 hams and 2 mac and cheese and 2 of our favorite cakes. And I took it down to Chief Haber, and I asked him to please give 1 dinner to Jordan's family and the other to Roy. I cannot imagine the pain that either of these families is suffering. It's just beyond my comprehension. And no matter what happens to Roy today, he has a life sentence. He's never going to live in a day that he doesn't think about Jordan. And Roy, he's a protector, and he's a good man, and he's the most disciplined man I've ever known in my life. And he's a kind man. And he wants to help, and he wants to protect. And this tragedy has gone against everything that Roy believes in. I don't know what else I can tell you.
Well, let me ask you a couple of questions. You said that Roy worked security at your apartment complex?
Yes, sir.
Did he also live there?
Yes, sir. He and his family live there.
Okay. And for approximately how long a period of time did they live there?
From March of 2013 until June of 2016.
So did you, in addition to getting to know Roy, did you also get to know his family?
Oh, yes.
And what did his family consist of?
His wife Ingrid and his son Tab. I have never known a man more proud of and to enjoy a baby more than he enjoyed that Tab. It used to be kind of a source of humor at the apartment, because once Tab was born and came home, that apartment couldn't be good enough for Tab. The blinds couldn't leak light in. We had a door that squeaked a little bit, and Roy was in the office wanting to know if we couldn't make that door not squeak because it's waking his baby up. It must have been 3 or 4 things that Roy was in the office, and we used to tease and say, that Roy, he obviously has the only baby that's ever been born. And it was sweet and humorous to see his reaction.
Did he take good care of his family?
Oh, yes.
Was it just his kids that he loved, or?
He got along real well with the apartment kids. When he frequently worked shifts that didn't put him there when the kids were out of school, but when his shift ended, about the same time, he got home at the same time as the kids. You might have thought the Pied Piper had arrived. The kids thought he was a cop, and that made him special. And they liked to talk to him, and he liked to talk to them. He was always a word of encouragement for the kids.
Did he provide a good role model for those kids?
I think so.
They look for him in his uniform to come home from work?
That's right. Yeah, they enjoyed it. One of them asked me, "Why does that Roy always ask me what my grades are?" And I said, "That's because grades are important." He was proud of all his children. His one by his ex-wife that was in vitro baby also. And I've never known another man in my entire life who wanted to be a part of a baby, knowing these are working people I'm talking about who money is tight with. In spite of child support, he still wants to be a part of that baby, even the one that was born in vitro. And I've never seen a man do that before.
So I think you told me that because of that, you think Roy Oliver is a man of integrity.
Yes, he's a kind man, absolute integrity, and he's a protector.
Let me show you defendant's exhibits numbers 28, 32, and 33, and ask you if you recognize the folks in these photographs.
Oh my goodness, yes. This is how these two are how I most think of Roy, with Tab just having a really good time and taking care of both those babies. He loves those babies. And this is taken at, give me a minute to think, Cowboy Church. This is at Cowboy Church, and this is a friend, and I don't know that lady.
Okay, who's the friend on the left?
That's Julie Greer.
Okay, that'd be Liz Greer's mom.
Yes, Liz Greer's mom. Mm-hmm.
We offer 28, 32, and 33.
No objection.
They're admitted for all purposes, you may publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I publish them by handing them to the members of the jury?
It's up to you.
Ms. Gore, you understand why we're here today?
Yes, sir.
I believe you've told us that you believe this whole thing to be a tragedy.
Absolutely. It's the worst tragedy I remember in our city.
Do you understand what this jury has to do today?
Oh, it's a tough task. I don't envy you.
Are you asking this jury to be as merciful on Roy as they can be?
Absolutely. Two families have been ruined here, and I can't see what adding more harm would do.
We pass the witness.
Cross-examination.
Persuasion. Ms. Gorwood, I'm just going to ask you a few questions. You mentioned that you wanted the jury to show mercy on
I did.
Roy Oliver. I'm going to show you sex exhibit number 1. You recognize this is Jordan?
Yes.
Do you think any mercy was shown on him that night?
I wasn't there that night. I can't say.
But you do know he was killed by Roy Oliver?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay, so he wasn't showing any mercy, but you think that Roy should?
Yes.
You mentioned that he was a kind man and helpful and nice and a protector, is that right?
That's what I said.
Do you feel like Jordan was protected that night?
I'm not privy to the things that happened that night.
So you're not aware that Roy Oliver killed
Yes,
Jordan
I did.
Oliver? Jordan Edwards, I'm sorry. That he shot into a car with 5 teens?
I know the facts of the case, but I wasn't there.
So do you feel like those 5 boys were protected?
I think Roy was doing his job, but it took a tragic turn. If Roy could give his life and bring Jordan back, he would.
Did he tell you that?
I know Roy.
Did you know that he's posted before that he's never in his life been as good as he is at killing people?
I'm not real internet savvy. I've never seen that. I'm not online much.
Sure. What about, you said that he lived there between March 2013 and October 2016?
I have to check. June 2016.
Okay. So did you know that, did you know about his situation in court where he cursed at the jury?
No, I
You
didn't.
didn't know he was angry and ordered to anger management by his department?
No.
Okay. Is that shocking to you?
It's very surprising.
Okay. All right. What about, did you keep up with him after he left in June 2016?
Not keep up with him. He was still a policeman in my city, so.
Okay. So were you aware that he had pulled a gun on 2 females and 2 little girls in April of 2017?
I heard about it in court.
That was shocking.
But that's
right?
about, I wondered about, that didn't sound right. There was something off in that. I can't imagine how that came about.
Sure. Well, because that's not what people do normally when they get into
Yes, and it's not Oliver's behavior.
Okay. You mentioned that this was a tragedy. You said that several
Oh,
times.
God, yes.
You would agree with me, but for the grace of God, we would have 5 dead teens, right?
Oh, I wouldn't agree with that. I wasn't there, I can't say.
So the 5 shots that he shot at that car, you don't think they could have hit each one of those boys?
I can't answer that. I'm sorry.
You would agree with me that shooting into a car is dangerous
Yeah,
and could kill people?
yeah.
Okay. Nothing further.
Mr. Hill?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
May this witness be finally excused?
No objections on the statement.
Thank you, ma'am. You're excused from any further testimony in the matter. Mr. Gill?
Paula Milliken.
Members of the jury, if you can stand up and stretch your legs, please do. Good morning. Hi.
Hello.
Could you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes, sir.
Please have a seat. You respond to questions from Mr. Gill and perhaps Mr. Lewis, who is directly in front of you.
Okay.
Mr. Gill, whenever she gets you ready, you may proceed. Go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you tell us your name, please?
Paula Mullican.
And would you spell it for us, please?
P-A-U-L-A. Middle name is Lee, L-E-E. Last name is Mullican, M-U-L-L-I-C-A-N.
And Ms. Mullican, how are you occupied or employed?
Well, I'm employed with myself. I'm a retiree, and I'm employed with myself at Malakoff, Texas. I own some rental property down there.
How long have you lived off in Malakoff?
I moved in to Malakoff in 2008 to enjoy cancer. I returned to Buck Springs and was employed by Mrs. Garwood.
And what did you do for Ms. Gorwood?
I managed the apartments.
And for those of us that aren't very familiar with Malakoff, Texas, where is it located?
Cedar Creek Lake, East Texas, Cedar Creek Lake.
And so you drove in from Cedar Creek Lake to be here today?
Yes, sir. I drove in from Cedar Creek Lake last night about 9 o'clock and made it.
And you did that to be here for Roy, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
How do you know Roy?
Roy was a resident at the apartments that I managed. Very good resident, very fine man.
so you got to know him while you were, did you work with him or?
Well, as a police officer, when something needed to be done around the apartments, I needed his advice, caretaking, whatever. Yes, sir.
So were you able to call upon him to help you out in the managing of that apartment complex?
Yes, sir, numerous times.
When you say numerous times, how many times are we talking about?
Well, maybe once, twice a month when a child would get in the water or in the driveway, that nature of thing. Once upon a time, I had a little child locked in a car. Mother was upstairs, and I didn't want to leave the child in the car locked in there in June, hot summertime, so I called on Roy Oliver, went up to his apartment, knocked on his door, and told him my situation. And just quick, Roy took care of it for me.
So what kind of things would you call upon Roy to help you out with?
Well, we had children, of course, in an apartment complex, and we had 32 units, 16 up, 16 down, and 16 one-bedrooms and 16 two-bedrooms, excuse me. And just various things, you know, like that. And Roy was very helpful with advising the kids, don't play in the driveway, don't play in the water, be cautious of the stairs, just so many things.
You were telling me about helping out folks with car batteries and flat tires.
Yes, sir. A lot of people didn't have late model vehicles. And occasionally you'd have a flat tire. Maybe your battery would go down, just maybe you're out of gas. So many things Roy Oliver stood up for.
Did you ever know Roy to tell anybody no?
No, sir. No, sir.
Did you, well, what kind of a man was Roy? What kind of a man did you know him to be?
Roy was a highly respectable police officer. Roy is the kind of man, he not only was a police officer, he was also a friend. He looked out for us. I transferred Roy to a different apartment to make him and his family more comfortable. When we approached him about it, he didn't disagree. Roy was very helpful with the transition and utilities, transfer, that sort of thing. It was done on time and very professional.
Well, was there an event in his life that made it necessary for him to have a different place to live?
Yes, sir. Roy became a father of a little baby boy, and we experienced that situation with him, so at that time he felt like he needed a little more space to where he would have space for the baby. In other words, the first apartment was only a one-bedroom, so he needed more space, so we transferred him to a two-bedroom. Roy was such a grateful father that the bathroom door squeaked a little bit at that time, and I noticed that smile, Roy. And he said, well, that bathroom door squeaking like that'll keep my baby awake. Roy's a very caring person where children are concerned.
Did you see that around the apartment complex?
Yes, sir. With all the children. I never, not one time, had one complaint from any of the parents there in the complex as to what Roy may have said to their children, instructed them or guided them or whatever. I never had one complaint on Mr. Roy Oliver.
While he lived at your complex, do you know how he was employed?
Yes, sir. He was a Box Springs police officer.
How do you know that?
Well, I went to, of course, see him come in and out in his uniform, his police car, meetings at the city hall. We had a crime watch meeting once a month. And if Roy was off a time or two, he was allowed to be there on his time off. Of course, he couldn't come to all of them because his schedule.
And you knew him to come on his time off to the Crime Watch meetings, or what would he do there?
You go to these meetings to voice your opinion as to what would be good for the community, because we are children, teenagers, young adults, middle adults, and seniors. And Roy had no choice between any of us. I mean, he was helpful to everything and everybody. Roy Oliver's an outstanding person, both as a police officer and a family man and a friend and a helper and a Christian man.
Is the city of Ball Springs a pretty diverse community?
It's a small community. We all get along. Most of us know everybody there. And
How about your complex? What was the makeup of the complex?
define the word makeup as to,
What kind of folks live there?
I'm gonna say probably like middle class type people. It's an affordable complex. The owner would adjust the rent, periodically from time to time to make comfort for the residents. And Mr. Oliver was a very good resident. He was not ever one day late on his rent. His apartment was kept immaculate. We did what's called pre-maintenance checkups to make sure that all your fixtures, your plumbing, your water, dishwashers, blah, blah, was working. And Mr. Oliver was top-notch.
Did you also get to know his wife while?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure did.
And did Roy take good care of his family?
He took excellent care of his family. I don't think that anyone in that complex or anyone near around the complex would have one cross word to say about Roy Oliver.
Let me show you what had been marked as Defendants Exhibits 29 and 30,
Yes, sir.
and ask if you recognize the folks in those photographs.
Yes, sir. This is a proud father of a newborn baby. That smile on his face tells you what nature of father he is.
Is it Roy Oliver we're talking about?
This man right here is Roy Oliver right over there. He is an excellent father. He was an excellent family man, excellent resident, and a very good Box Springs police officer. He never turned anybody down for any reason.
Who is in the other photograph that you have in front of you?
This is Roy Oliver, the gentleman right over here. And this picture explains to me the love that Roy Oliver has even for animals. You don't see him shooing this animal away, you see him petting this animal with love. See the expression on that face? That's the expression we always saw out of Roy Oliver. He always had a smile on his face. If it was 8 o'clock in the morning and he was on his way to work, he still had a smile on his face. Good morning, Paula. Whoever. I mean, this is Roy Oliver. He's a man of love. He's a man of affection. And
Was Roy good with people?
Roy is excellent with people. He wasn't only a police officer. You can be a supervisor, but you can still be a friend to that person. You can give people eviction notices and turn them around and make them the best resident you ever had. Roy Oliver, I never one reason for an altercation with Roy Oliver, because he never gave me a reason to.
Was he a happy man?
Roy Oliver was very happy. If he weren't very happy, he surely wouldn't have had those smiles on his face.
We offer 29 and 30.
No objection, Your Honor.
29 and 30 are admitted for all purposes. You may public.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Mullican, this jury has convicted Mr. Oliver of murder.
Yes,
Now
sir.
they have to decide what sentence they're going to give him. Do you have anything you'd like to tell them?
Yes, sir. I beg of the jury, the court, the judge to show 100% leniency to Roy Oliver. He is not what he has been made out to be. Roy Oliver loved children. He loved people. It didn't matter who we were. It just didn't. And I beg the jury to please take this into consideration, that Roy Oliver is not what he's portrayed to be. He's just not. I'm a child of God. There's only one ruler, and that is God. But Roy Oliver is not the man at all that he's made out to be. I have grandchildren that I would trust Roy Oliver with. One of them is 10 years old, the other one is 15. I would leave him with Roy Oliver any day. He is not a murderer. He is not a murderer. So I beg, please show leniency. Excuse me.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Number 3, 29 and 30 from up here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. One is Mullican.
Good morning.
Just a few questions for you. You stated on direct that Mr. Oliver is a highly respectable police officer and a good man. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Would a highly respectable police officer and a good man use profanity in court?
If it became necessary,
In what circumstance would that become necessary now?
well, if he were put under extreme pressure and he knew what he was being accused of wasn't the right thing, that could happen to anybody. It probably would happen to me.
Okay, so in your opinion, using the F word in front of the judge and jury, that'd be appropriate to you?
If there were the reason for it, which I'd have to hear that out of Roy Oliver's head, because I have never heard that word out of that man in 5 years.
So you've never heard the defendant ever use profanity?
No, sir, of any nature, not even the little bitty word.
Okay.
No.
Would a highly respectable police officer and good man pull a gun on 2 women after a traffic accident?
That would depend upon the altercation at the time, because in the world we live in today, officer, you don't know what you're getting out of that squad car and gonna face.
Okay, how about while off duty? Would a person who's in a normal traffic accident, just driving down the road, pull a gun on somebody?
There again, he is a police officer. He has the choice to make the right decision at that time. That's the way I would feel about that. I wouldn't want to get out of my car and have to face whatever, not knowing what they may have in their purse, their car seat, under the seat, whatever. So that would depend upon the circumstances at the time.
Okay, but I believe you stated on direct examination that you're not aware of any kind of altercations that Mr. Oliver was a part of. Is that correct?
I've never known Mr. Oliver to be anything. He is a very calm man. I mean, his voice would probably be like this. He's a very calm man. He's not an emotional person. When the little baby boy was born, Roy Oliver did not show any signs of emotion. But you would have thought Roy Oliver was the only man that ever become a daddy.
Okay. So Mr. Oliver's a very calm man, in your opinion, is that
Yes, sir. Roy has always been very calm.
I think you said top notch, is that right, how you described it?
Yes, sir.
Would a top notch person, a very calm person, post on Facebook that they'd never be as good at anything as killing people?
Repeat that, please.
Would a top notch person, a very calm person, a high respected police officer, as you described the defendant, would somebody like that post on Facebook that they'd never be as good at anything as killing people?
You know, we don't never know what tomorrow's going to bring. We don't know what we're going to do in any situation until we face that situation. So I can't answer. I wouldn't be able to give you a good answer on that question because who knows, I may do the same thing under the situation. You might, who might. I don't think that Roy Oliver would intentionally say anything to a direct answer to that.
Okay. Let's just take that statement in and of itself. I'd never be as good as anything as killing people. Do you think that that's a normal statement that a normal person would say?
Well, you can take that in several different directions. I don't know. I might say that in certain cases. I've never thought it because I've never had to. But as a police officer, and may I add, I have police officers in my family. I have a son that's an attorney. You don't know what those people in those professions face daily. It's just impossible to say what a police officer, when he gets in that squad car of a day, we don't know what he's going to face out there on that road.
All right, ma'am. You stated that the defendant was a grateful father, good father, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Were you aware that he had another child, a daughter?
Yes, sir. 12 days apart.
You ever seen his daughter with him at the apartment complex?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On how many occasions?
I can't count, but several.
And you also stated that the jury should have 100% leniency on this defendant, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you know the victim in this case, Jordan Edwards?
No, sir, I didn't. My heart goes out to his mother and his father. I can't imagine what it would be to lose a son or daughter in any case. But I also can't imagine what it's going to be for Roy Oliver's 2 children to grow up without their father. So, Mr. and Mrs. Oliver, if you can, let God handle it.
Go ahead.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State Exhibit number 1.
I saw his picture on
That's
TV.
Jordan Edwards. He's 15 years old.
I saw his picture on TV. Very nice looking young man.
You talk about the defendant and his 2 children. Can you imagine what this family is going through right here?
Yes, sir, I can't imagine what they're going through.
But you
Yes.
want this jury to have 100% leniency after murdering this young man?
Roy did not intentionally murder this young man.
Thank you, ma'am.
He did not.
You are aware that the jury has found this defendant guilty of murdering that?
Yes, sir, I do, and I understand that. But when you get out into a situation like what's going on in Box Springs that night, and I understand from the news media that there was gunfire at another location close, and that it was very easy to think the gunfire came from that car.
Ma'am, were you there that night?
No, I said what I had seen and heard on news media.
Okay, were you there that night during the course of the shooting?
No, I just said I would.
Yes, ma'am. So let me ask you another question. You were there that night, so you're not in any position to tell this jury what was in that defendant's mind that night. Is that correct?
I didn't tell them, I asked them.
Okay, so that's a no. Is that correct?
I didn't tell them, I asked them.
My question is, you're not in any position to tell this jury what was in the defendant's mind that night when he murdered Jordan Edwards. Is that a yes or no?
To answer that question, I know Roy Oliver enough to know he would not have done anything intentionally, so
Thank you.
no.
I'll pass it.
Thank you. You agree with that?
Nothing further, Judge.
Thank you very much. May this witness be finally excused. Mr. Lewis, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. And you may step down. You're excused from any further service in this matter. Please watch your step. Mr. Gill, please call your next witness. Can I have it quiet in the gallery, please? Can I have it quiet in the gallery, please? Ma'am? Hi. Ma'am? Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Gill, call your next witness.
We'll call David Fields.
Judge, I thought there were like 4 or 5 photos.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Gill. How you doing, sir? If you would please come to the front of the court. Before you have a seat on the witness stand, watch your step. If you face me, raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth.
I do.
Please have a seat. You respond to questions from Mr. Gill. Who will this be for this state?
I'll handle it.
Mr. Spice. Mr. Gill, you may proceed when ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you tell the jury your name, please?
David Fields.
Would you spell it for us, please?
D-A-V-I-D-F-I-E-L-D-S.
And is it Officer Fields?
Yes.
Who are you employed by?
The city of Balch Springs.
And what do you do for the city of Balch Springs?
I'm assigned to the patrol division.
So you're a police officer with the city of Balch Springs?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been a police officer with the city of Balch Springs?
Next week it'll be 9 years.
And how were you employed before going to work at Balch Springs?
Before I went to work at Balch Springs, I contracted with a security protective company in East Texas. And prior to that, I was in law enforcement.
So approximately how many years have you been in law enforcement altogether?
Since 1990, with the 3-year break in there.
While you were employed with the city of Balch Springs as a police officer, did you come to know a guy by the name of Roy Oliver?
Yes, I did.
And is Mr. Oliver the second person over here to my right?
Yes.
And did you come to know Mr. Oliver at the Balch Springs Police Department?
I did.
Did you work with Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
And in what capacity did you work with him?
We were assigned together in patrol division. We worked some years together on the night shift, and then we worked some years as well together on the day shift as well.
And while you were working with Mr. Oliver on the streets of Balch Springs, did you form some opinions about him?
Yes, I did.
And what do you think generally of Mr. Oliver?
The times I've worked with Roy, you have to understand when you're working with someone in law enforcement, these are people you got to depend on. You want to work around certain people, at least I do anyway. And he was one of the people that I liked working around for the fact that around me, I've always known him to be calm. I've never seen Roy treat anybody in the way I would want my own family treated. Had he did so, I would have been the first to say something about it. Mr. Dependable, he was there, and he just had a good demeanor about himself.
Is he the kind of guy you want in your foxhole?
Yes.
Is he the kind of guy you want as your backup if you're going into a tense situation as a police officer?
Yes, definitely.
Did you have that experience with him?
One of the situations I remember most about him, that me and him had answered a call one time, and it was on a Sunday, and it was a large family. Unfortunately, they were having a very large disturbance in reference to who had ownership of a house and who they thought should be there. And there's about 20 people there, with more arriving every minute seemingly. And we were able to talk these people down, help them resolve this situation that day without any of their family members going to jail. No one feeling that they've been mistreated in any kind of way, shape, or form. And I appreciate that about them. I mean, there's just certain people that have ability that if they show up on your scene, they can literally escalate that scene just by their mere presence. This is the way they are. And those are people that I don't want around me. Roy was not that type of person at all.
The way you described that situation, did he actually help diffuse the situation?
Yes, he did.
Is that the kind of officer that you want around?
Yes, for me, yes.
How does that help you do your job?
It makes it easier. For myself, if I've got to, sure, in law enforcement, there are times where arresting someone is just totally inevitable. It's going to happen. But for myself, if I end up in a situation where I've got to put my hands on you any kind of way or something like that, then I failed. And times that Roy worked with me, he was that same type of person. And he just made the job easier.
So do you see your job as being out in the community to help and assist people
Yes, very much so.
and protect them?
Yes.
Did that seem to be Roy's philosophy as a police officer?
As far as I knew, when he was around me, yes.
You told us about another incident where you all rolled up on a motorcycle collision.
There was an accident. It was an African-American gentleman, and he had a real nice Harley. I mean, this motorcycle was pristine prior to him having the accident. And at that time, we had a policy where if you were going down the street and had an accident, but you didn't hit anything or cause any kind of property damage, you just lost control of your vehicle, what have you, the policy was that you didn't do an accident report. And I informed this gentleman that I wouldn't be doing an accident report on it. And Roy kind of had a problem with that because he felt that to not do an accident report for this gentleman was slighting him. And could, of course, maybe the insurance companies would give him a bad time or something like that because he didn't have an accident report in hand to reflect what happened. And he really had a problem with it.
So he wanted to help the gentleman out.
He did. He did.
Guy was in kind of a tough spot.
Yes.
Is that just generally the kind of police officer you knew Roy to be?
That is all I received to do. Yes.
And approximately how long did you work with him?
Probably about 4 years we worked together on the same shift.
We passed the witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge.
Good morning, officer.
Good morning, sir.
Have you testified in front of a jury before?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever in front of a jury like these ladies and gentlemen over here said, I don't remember the fucking question?
No, sir, I've never said anything like
Can you
that.
imagine doing that?
No, I didn't.
Other than the defendant over here, have you ever heard of anybody doing that?
No, sir, I haven't.
Okay. Have you ever been to anger management counseling, sir?
I've never had to go, no, sir.
Okay, did you know that Mr. Hoffer has?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So you don't know him that well, do you? You don't know that?
No, I don't know that.
Okay. Let me ask you this. You ever been in a car accident before?
Have I been in a car accident? Oh, yes, sir, yeah.
Okay. You ever pulled a gun on somebody
No, sir.
as a result of that?
No, sir.
Can you imagine doing that?
No, I couldn't.
Okay. Can you imagine taking over a Dallas Police Department sergeant and pointing out in your truck a rifle, a Kevlar helmet, and a flak jacket and bragging to that sergeant, just to let you know, Sergeant, it could have been a lot worse?
No,
Can you imagine?
no.
You ever heard of the novel Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson?
Yes, sir, I have.
Right. And Dr. Jekyll was the good guy, right?
Yes,
So maybe the defendant can be Dr. Jekyll every now and then.
it's possible.
But maybe he can be Mr. Hyde too.
It's possible. Yes.
Mr. Hyde, the kind of person that has on his cover photos of his Facebook, I will never in my life be as good at anything else as I am at killing people. Can you imagine having that be in your cover photo, sir?
I couldn't know.
Insane, right? Honestly,
I couldn't imagine doing that, no, sir.
that's where it's at.
Is that the kind of person that you knew Roy Oliver to be?
No. No, I've never seen anything like that, so those things as well are shocking to me, yes.
Because that's not the way Roy Oliver was with you in the many hours that you spent with him out on the streets of Ball Springs.
No, never.
Have you ever been involved in a shooting as a police officer?
Unfortunately, yes, sir.
When you say unfortunately, why do you use that term?
That's nothing you ever want to do.
Is it life altering?
Yes.
Is it your worst nightmare as a police officer?
Very much so.
Is that something you fear having to do every day when you strap on your uniform?
It's reality that it can happen, and yes, sir.
It can happen in a split second, can it?
Yes, sir.
Is that your experience?
Yes, sir.
Things escalate very quickly out there, don't they?
They can.
You have to react as best you know at that time, isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
And hope for the best outcome that you can hope for.
Yes, sir.
Is one of the things that's most important to you making sure your fellow officers go home at the end of their shift?
Definitely.
Pass the witness. Nothing else good.
May this witness be finally excused. Sir, you may stand down. You're excused from any further
Thank you.
statements. Thank you very much. Mr. Gill, call your next witness, please.
Raymond Keener.
All right, good. Members of the jury, we're going to take a brief recess. Please go with the sheriff and wait for his instructions. All rise for the jurors. 15 minutes, or 10:20.